It's your face afterwards where you're like, I'll wait. Are you done? Okay.
Have fun.
So I did. It was awesome. I have Nancy here.
Let's go out and eat. Try out and eat.
I have Sophie here.
Yes!
Yes! And the boys.
But
I
then
can't
this
turn
is
it
a
around.
restaurant that we
And
place.
this time, we'll be talking about love in 2017. That's right. You should.
Love.
Love in 2017. So, I'm going to have Nancy move to her left for a second. And I'm going to show you the whiteboard where the Lord has me write down the words of the year. So, oh, excuse me. Boop, look, victory. So that's the whiteboard. Whiteboard. And so in 2000, so we ended our humility in 2016 talking about how the Lord instilled humility in me in 2016, preparing me to have a perspective that would facilitate his heart toward other people. And so we started talking about the things that he taught me in 2017 concerning humility, because it's not a one time, like I'm going to teach you humility for a year and then we'll be done. But he's continuing, of course, through all of this. So we were also talking after the video about how humility and love are they have to coexist, where it's not one and then the other, but they work in harmony together. You can't. I've learned that I can't love someone well without humility, and I can't be humble or humble myself well without a heart to love either, because then it's just works or obligation, or this painful sacrifice, But what the Lord has taught me is that humility is a genuine gift. It's a precious gift that He's given us. So we started talking about, so he gave me love at the, I actually, at the beginning of 2000.
Can I just ask you, the couple scriptures that jumped into my mind is, humble yourself in the sight of the Lord and he will lift you up.
Mm-hmm.
And put on humility. There is an involvement. There is a,
Yeah.
That's maybe something to explain at some point.
That there's a part we play in.
Yeah, I mean,
in humility.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and we've learned too, and it's scriptural that you can either humble yourself or be humbled.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you always want to. We all know what it's like to be humbled, and that is an uncomfortable thing, and not uncomfortable in like oh, it hurts so good, but like that was just really embarrassing, and I feel like an idiot, and not a good way. So there's definitely a part that we play. We choose humility. Well, it's like in The Final Quest, where Rick Joyner puts on the cloak of humility and is kind of embarrassed that he's wearing it, but he keeps it on. Because he knows he's hearing over and over again how important it is, how good it is that he has the cloak of humility. He's seeing the people who don't have the cloak of humility on and what a detriment it is to them. But he had to put it on. Go ahead.
I'll say this too, because I just listened to it. But he took it off.
Yes. Yep.
And then it really screwed things up. And he's like, oh my gosh, I got to put this on. He goes, and I think it was the eagle that was talking to him, said, because he knew he was about ready to hear something important, but that taking off humility and like, look at my glorious armor, he didn't get to hear that, and he knew it was something important. He says, well, now you're going to hear it through your enemies.
Yeah. Yes. So that one decision that he made in taking it off, there were consequences and repercussions. Even though he put it back on, which was good, but it shifted the course of things. And so it's also really important that we exercise humility, that we put on the cloak of humility. There was something else too that just came to me that he took off the cloak of humility, and underneath is this glorious armor, beautiful, bright, shining, glorious armor. The only difference is other people can see it. So when we have the cloak of humility on, we also have that armor on, that glorious, beautiful armor. It's just covered by the cloak. Doesn't mean that we've taken it off. We still have it. But the only purpose in taking off the cloak of humility is to let other people see what we have. And that in itself is, that reveals pride. That's pride and selfishness. Like, look at me, look at what I have. And so to keep that cloak of humility on doesn't detract from what you have underneath. But there's something precious to that. So that's good. So we're moving into love. The beginning of 2017, I honestly didn't like it. It had come down to the wire. I think it was, and I was like, Lord, I've got to have a new word. Like, what word are you going to give me for this year? And so I heard the word love, and he just impressed upon me that he was going to teach me his kind of love, and I'm like, awesome, that's cool. And so I wrote that down, and after a few months, I had even written down, like, the 1 Corinthians 13, like, what love is, and patient, kind, and all the rest. I had written it around it. And what the Lord began to do in that year, he was already instilling love in me. He taught me all about love in 2016 as well. He really poured identity into me and how he thought of me, and expounded on our relationship as a father and a daughter. And Paul Keith Davis had that vision of stewarding his heart, haven of love vision, and how to steward the Lord's heart. And then so I was really focused on that, trying to learn how to be a good steward of the Lord's heart. And then the Lord revealed, like, I already have his heart, and so you're not learning how to be a good steward so that I'll give you my heart. It's you're learning how to steward a heart I've already given you. And just his love for me, and that humbled me, and taught me a lot about humility. So when he was expounding on love this last year was more just getting deeper and growing more in what his love looked like. And it was more putting into practice, because I had that honeymoon period of just, like, sitting in this chair in my kitchen and, like, watching videos, making videos, getting into the Word, having conversation, like fellowshipping, and just being in relationship with the Lord. I didn't work. I just cared for my home and my kids. I say just, but when I watch the videos where I'm like, just did this, like, being a mom of 4 and a wife is still a full-time job. But now it's like, all I had to do was take care of my kids and my house and my family. But there was at one point, I think it was like in April, where I was like, all right, Lord, like, what are we going to do now? Like, I'm feeling a little bored here. I'm just hanging out and it's great. But I started feeling this stirring of, like, what's the point of learning this stuff if I'm not going to walk it out? I know it, but I don't have any connection with people. I don't have any, like, real ties in the community, like, to fellowship or to serve. Or I just hang out at my house all day, And then immediately Cheryl backs off. My mother-in-law backs off and goes, okay, take over my position at Siam. And now all of a sudden I'm a boss, and I'm training servers, learning how to be a server, training servers, and then doing all the behind the stuff. So I'm working, 4 or 5 days a week every day. And then still having to do this. So it's like the Lord thrust me into this new life of, like, actually having to walk out, being in community, interacting with people, and learning how to be a boss that loves, not a boss that just manages
Bosses.
stuff and that bosses. Yeah, but he put these people, these new employees in my life and said, now I want you to love them. There's stuff that's going on that has nothing to do with work, and I've prepared you to speak life to these people. So even though I had some people quit, even though I had some people who really struggled in their job, and I had to have conversations with them, hard conversations with them about the quality of their work, the Lord opened the doors for me to pour into their lives as well and speak truth and create relationship that was solid, so that it wasn't like, oh crud, my boss is mad at me, I'm going to lose my job. And even if they ended up feeling that way, it had nothing to do with what I was, anything to do with me. It had to do with just that preconceived notion of like, this is the way I'm supposed to think. That's you're playing footsies. That's Mattel. So there was that aspect of it, and then there was also meeting Art.
Yeah.
And so I'll lay out that story real quickly. It was right before I had started working. I didn't realize that I was going to start working, and Ezra and I don't even think Ezra was with me. Maybe he was. Pull into the back alley of our restaurant. And as I'm pulling into the back alley, I see this older guy who's sitting on this ledge on the sidewalk with a shopping cart and a crutch hanging out of the shopping cart. He's just sitting on the ledge. And the Lord goes, go talk to him. Ask him if he's hungry and go talk to him. And I pull into the alleyway and I go into Siam, and I'm kind of hee-hawing around the idea of actually going and talking to him. But the Lord's like, go. And we'll continue here in a moment.